And why Google did that? Because Google perceived the importance of data, and that's why they became one of the first $1 trillion companies in history. Because they created solutions for billions of people. And for me, it's the focus of any company is creating value for a lot of people, if they want to make money and if they want to create a sustainable ecosystem around that. So, but these myths are very important, okay? Because cryptocurrencies are, of course, something that is using blockchain technology, but like in any fiat currency, you can do it for right, you can do it for wrong. And there's a lot of countries that are doing fantastic work, countries that are doing very bad things. So you cannot put everything in the same box, okay? I want to highlight this. And very important, a lesson you take from this, blockchain is not the same as cryptocurrencies. I think everyone got it now? Great. So it's very important because the biggest problem with economics and technology is putting things in one box and creating myths around that. So please make sure that we do. And there's a very big problem in the internet, and it comes back out of this, is that the internet became the challenge in the sense of can you trust the data or can you not trust the data? Okay. And on this is a very important thing. I'm going to mention something. So on the financial strategy, and I did this actually for central banks, was that, of course, the most important thing in the end of the day, it's us, the users and the clients. Forget the technology. Blockchain technology doesn't mean anything if you don't use it right and if you don't use it with solutions. So I mentioned supply chain, I mentioned finance, precisely because of that, because this is two very concrete examples. And for instance, for you to understand how big this is, I mentioned the European Union. All the major banks in the world are using right now blockchain technology. Of course, some of them are still doing pilots and trying to understand, but they are all conscious that if you cut all these middlemen, because technology-wise it's very simple. The challenge is the reality of if you cut all these 8 transaction people in the middle, you're going to have to fire a huge part of their operations. You don't need these people. But then it comes another thing, is that the data identity and data ownership. And that's one big thing. Okay, so I think this is a very important statement here that I want to try to explain is that, so the first generation of digital transformation was when we started putting things on the internet, starting to create websites. It created, of course, the data that we have now. So this second generation of data is much more about creating identity. So coming back to the banks. So the biggest challenge we have right now is that all of us have a huge amount of data. It's the data from what we do in social networks, the data about our health. For instance, health is going to be the most sensitive stuff in the next history of mankind, the next stage. Because it's the most sensitive we have. Our health is the most precious thing we have. If we don't get good health, we cannot survive, we die. And of course, the information on data related, for instance, with health, it's something very sensitive because at the moment, most of the hospitals are still using very low-end technological systems. For instance, most of the research, and I've been working with a lot of scientists and actually some Nobels of medicine, is telling us that at the moment, most of the medicine system is going to be completely disrupted. We don't need doctors. And this is a big statement. It's not mine, by the way. Why you don't need doctors? Because you go to an hospital, and the hospital and the doctor, they will give you a doctor to analyze if you have some symptoms. But the doctor will only understand the symptoms based on what he sees from you. And of course he knows some things, but he doesn't know all the areas. It might be that that day was very hot and you were feeling bad. It might be that the doctor is feeling bad and when he analyzes you, he cannot be totally transparent because he's not feeling good as well. So this creates a lot of bias towards the analysis between the doctor and the patient. So at the moment, just the device from Apple knows more about your health than actually most of the doctors. Because for instance, they know how much you sleep. I'm sure that everyone has your phone close to your bed. The phones have sensors, they understand how much you sleep. They understand the time you walk and the time you are quiet. So if you don't walk, immediately it's telling you that you have problems. Your body is not moving. All this data is being processed in the data service of Apple and Google and so forth. So this is a big thing in terms of digital. is that we're not digitalizing just the economics and the finance and the money and the supply chain, but our health. And this is where it comes artificial intelligence and the Internet of Value. And this is the most sensitive stuff that we have nowadays. Because, for instance, if you look at Google or Facebook, all these companies are investing billions and billions of dollars actually in healthcare technology. And they're putting healthcare in blockchain. And that is precisely to protect the data. Because, for instance, if you are an hospital and you have the data of all the patients, for instance, in Kuala Lumpur, for instance, the biggest hospital in Kuala Lumpur probably has the data of millions of people. And this is very sensitive, because if someone hacks the database of the hospital and starts using it for wrong things, and trust me, they all act. Everything is hacked as we speak. So the problem, for instance, I can get information from anyone in this room in the dark web. You know what is the dark web? It's a parallel layer of the internet for $10 to $50, $100. Everyone here. So it's important that we're conscious about that as well. So it's not just, so there's a lot of layers here. And you understand the complexity of this. I want to highlight this, and I want to actually make you think, okay? It's not just coming up with an academic, concise summary. You can see that all over the internet. I want you to think. You have to be critical thinking, but do your homework, okay? One of the things I always tell my students, don't talk about what you don't know, do the research, and then make a statement. And be careful about making the statement. It's very important to research, doing the homework, and not going through the first layer. There's a lot of layers we need to work, and that's the work of academics, that's the work you have to do in the university. Thinking critically and preparing you for the world and these relationships. So this Internet of Value is where we are at this stage. But it's a lot of different technologies. Internet of Things, smart cities. Of course, blockchain and AI are the foundational technologies, because all the different technologies in the world are starting to rely on this shoe. And of course, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have quantum computing. And quantum computing is even much bigger. I'm not going too much on that because it's a bit more science fiction probably, but it's not so science fiction because everyone is investing on that. But for instance, Facebook right now is using smart contract technology, and this is Mark Zuckerberg, okay? It's not just one guy in this research center. Mark Zuckerberg is using smart contract technology to create identity for the data for each user of Facebook. They're already doing pilots on this. So that means that Facebook has 1.3 billion people in their database, which is bigger than any government in the world, more powerful than anyone. Actually, it's the biggest database in the history of mankind. So with this smart contract technology, what happens is that they can actually, if you put this in a machine learning system, everyone is familiar with machine learning? So machine learning is, for the ones that probably don't know so much, is, in the end of the day, is data learning with each other. So let's say, I know some information about you. I create an algorithm to see the patterns. How much time you sleep, how much time you walk, how much education you have, and this algorithm will tell me, okay, percentage of education, percentage of health, percentage of this, and then I create another algorithm that starts creating a probability between this data and this data. This is machine learning, okay? And of course in a very simplistic way. But of course, as this machine learning becomes more mature, you come to artificial intelligence, which is much, much more things. And that's the stage we are. For instance, the stage we are right now is that, so we're starting to put the data in distributed ledgers, so blockchain, but we're still in a very early stage. For now, there's only the financial industry and the supply chain that is becoming mainstream. So you have all the industries that will come, like the internet. If you look at the internet, initially you could not make safe transactions, you could not make payments, but this is starting right now, is mainstream worldwide. Although it's still 80 to 90% of the world economy is still based on paper, not digital. But for instance, a very important thing, the financial industry is the most advanced in terms of digitalization. So for instance, the financial industry worldwide is around 80% digitized. So we have a paradox, is the financial industry is all digitized, and the world economy is still paper and offline. This is a big paradox as well. And that's why the financial industry did so much its use for our world economy. because as they are digitized, they can play around with the numbers. And this is a very sensitive stuff. Because if you play around with the numbers, you can fake the numbers. And this is a big problem because it's not just the financial industry, the central banks and everything, because a lot of the money you're creating is artificial money. It's to help people, but you cannot just continue creating fake money. And see, this is the point where cryptocurrencies are not so wrong, if you do it right, and if you use it right. It's all about the way you use it. You can use a knife to cut an apple or to cut an arm. So it's the way we use it, okay? So it's very important that we are cautious about this. Any questions everyone is getting? Okay, we get probably the questions for the end. Okay, so just on the summary of this slide, it's all about trust, okay? The world economy is based on trust. If you don't trust Dr. Reyes, if you don't trust me, you don't feel well. And a very important thing about this trust, and this is from Don Scott, that is someone I've been working with. So it's I actually advise you all to buy his book, Blockchain Revolution. It's the biggest book on blockchain. And it's available online, most of the information. He actually has a website where most of the book is available for free. And, but what it says is that the blockchain is the database that, as I mentioned, that is running operations and information and data about us, about the users, and of course, going forward, everything will be in this kind of technologies. It might be changed the name, because the names keep on changing. It's like, for instance, the internet then became the web. Then it became whatever we have it now. We say about a lot of different things when we talk about the internet. So blockchain will be the same, okay? So forget the name. Don't be obsessed about the name. And you'll have people saying, it's just some Bitcoin stuff. A lot of people that don't do their own work. That's why you are academics, you have to do your own work. But the important thing is trust. All the economies in the world are based on trust. A piece of money is a piece of paper that was printed by a central bank. And we trust it because we trust our bank, we trust our institutions. So as we put everything digital, that's the challenge we have and the opportunity. And that's where the blockchain technology is so important, because we are creating trust data for the data. How we do it, that's the challenge. But this can only be done through mass collaboration. And that's why, for instance, why Oxford is doing this part on blockchain. And it's not just Oxford. It's the MIT, it's Cambridge, it's Harvard, it's Stanford. All the universities in the world are highlighting this. Some of them might look at it, for instance, from the financial angle, for the finance students. Some of them for the supply chain, if you are more in technology. And of course, if you're more advanced in technology, from artificial intelligence, from all the different areas, because you need to learn that. And for instance, smart contract is a small part of machine learning, because it's a smart contract, it's a code between two entities that you do based on the law of the country or the law of the rules that you create. And this is very important for trust, is because who is controlling the machines? Who is programming the machines that do these contracts? And this is where you are fundamental for the future of mankind. Because just me and my team, I can hack databases worldwide if I use it wrong. And the quantity of data that I can get access scares me. Everyone heard about Cambridge Analytica, I guess. So for instance, I work with Cambridge Analytica. Not in the wrong thing, by the way. But it's very important is that, for instance, not everyone in Cambridge Analytica wanted to use it for the wrong ways. And what happened is that as the management of the Cambridge Analytica was actually owned by some billionaires, they had their agenda. So they pushed the entire technology that was built to do wrong things. And this is very important that you are conscious about this, because most of the people in the world cannot understand how this happened. So it was very simple. It was just manipulation of data, but done on a scientific way by academics like you. So this brings the point of trust and ethics. You trust someone because someone does things that you rely. Because you have a course, because you did a master, because you did a PhD. Then you, okay, that's a doctor, I trust this doctor. Or I trust the doctor that is in my hospital because this person took a course here in this university or another like this. And this university has credibility. So this level of trust when it comes to blockchain technology it's super critical, because if you program a smart contract wrong, what is going to happen is someone can hack the code of the smart contract. And then you can take the money out of the smart contract, you can actually use it for wrong things. For instance, that happened with the DAO. There was an experiment done in terms of using decentralized technology, in terms of decentralized systems. And this is very important, centralized versus decentralized. So most of the systems of nature are centralized. And we have some systems that are decentralized. For instance, if you look at the spiders, they are centralized beings. If you cut the leg from a spider, the spider dies. But if you go to a starfish, if you cut the leg of a starfish, it creates another one. So this is two systems within nature. But most of the systems are centralized. And if you look at the history of mankind, with the exception of maternal civilizations, which were very small, most of the civilizations were had by men, nothing against man or female, but this is important as well in terms of governance, is that most of the systems in governance are central. So one of the myths around blockchain technology is that you can decentralize all technology, because you can put the data in the servers and then the data will learn and everything will be beautiful. Well, I'm not a huge fan of that, because that is not possible. Unfortunately, we're not still all angels that can actually do everything, and there's of course people that can do it better and people that can do it wrong. But this part of the trust is fundamental from a financial perspective, and especially of course from a technological perspective. Because imagine if you're programming a database or an algorithm and you put a bias in the algorithm. There's a big problem that has been happening, especially in the last 6 months to 1 year, is that most of the